Hey fellas, so today we're going to go over the midline substitutions, why midline substitutions are important, and how you can effectively play the sub game, either off of face-offs or in transition to get momentary man-up advantages and try to throw your opponent off kilter. So first we're going to look at why it's important to sub properly. Um, this is something that I feel like you don't often see college teams do, but I think it's a really great aggressive move, and it's something that you are at risk of if you sub multiple people out at once. So here you can see Utah's playing Delaware. Delaware is subbing out multiple people, so they're going to have, I believe, four people on the field against five from Utah. And Utah is going to attack. They're going to double the ball here because they have the extra man advantage. So the one of the poles that isn't marked up on a guy right now, he's going to double the ball until a new Delaware player comes in, and they don't get the ball back, but they really cause this guy to waste a ton of energy sprinting around. And then once another Delaware player comes in, the pole just sloughs off and goes and marks him up. So um, there you can see, like I said, they didn't end up turning the ball over here, but they put some pressure on him. They definitely could have turned the ball over, and you just made that guy waste a ton of energy, really for no reason. All right, so first thing we're going to talk about is how exactly you can operate the midline subs. A lot of times when you're watching games on TV, it can be hard to see this happen in real time because the camera only films half of the field. But here, the camera pans out, and you're able to see players crossing the midfield line and coming in and out of the box. So it's a really good example of how to get the midline subs done. So we're starting out. Uh, Utah just brought the ball into their offensive half. So they're going to look to get their offensive personnel on the field. Okay. So you got an LSM, a D midi or two on there. So this is the time to break out your midline subs and start to get your offensive personnel out. So first we're going to follow the LSM at the top of the formation, number 41. You're going to see as they're getting the ball around, he's going to break out to the 50-yard line. Okay, so once he gets there, they don't already have an offensive player ready to break over the line. So, because their close defenseman hasn't gotten off the field yet. So, you'll see as he crosses, okay, the close defenseman is then coming off of the field. And as the close defenseman gets off the field, one offensive player can then break out onto the offensive half because now Utah only has five players on the offensive side. So there you go. There's one offensive player. But notice the LSM number 41, he's going to continue off the field on the defensive half. Once he does that, he's then trading places with an offensive player, an offensive midi, who's going to wait by the 50. Okay. And once he gets ready, you're going to see the short stick D midi, he's going to break out to the 50. And now, because the offensive player is already waiting there at the 50, he's already subbed out, and one of the close defensemen is still waiting in the box. That offensive midi is free to go over once the short stick D midi crosses over the 50. That short stick D midi, he's going to continue off the field, and this is where you stop being able to see what's happening, but he's going to continue off the field. And once he gets off the field, then the close defender would then be able to come back on. All right. So now we're going to take a look at a great game between Georgetown and Johns Hopkins from earlier this year. And Johns Hopkins really uses the midline subs to their advantage in this game and get a ton of great looks, some goals off of it. So let's take a look how they did it. All right, so now let's take a look at a really great game from Georgetown and Hawkins from earlier this season. Um, so Hawkins really used the midline sub to their advantage. Got a ton of great looks, a couple goals off of it. So let's kind of watch how it plays out in real time. So you can see here Georgetown is on offense. Okay, they take a shot, goes outside the cage. So turnover here. All right. So Hawkins, you can see they're starting to break out into their transition. Okay. They're going to clear the ball, get it onto their offensive half. All right. And they're going to start the sub game. You can already see one guy ran off to the midfield line. All right. But they still have more defensive players that they need to sub off, need to get all their offensive guys on. So 34 is going to be one of those short stick D middies that they're trying to get off of the field and sub out for someone. So you can see here, he's going to do what you might call a soft pick. All right, so I'm going to show that again. He goes to the crease after the ball is cleared. All right, they get the ball around and they get it to one of the new guys coming in. All right, and then he's gonna set up, okay, as if he's gonna set a pick on the pole. All right, so what this does is it makes this shorty really have to think hard about what he's gonna do here. Okay, because if 34 from Hopkins stays on and sets a hard pick, okay, it's imperative that the defender from Georgetown stay on, okay, and play this ball and help out his long pole. All right. So he's worried about that, which is why it's a great time for number 34 to just sprint off the field because he's going to be able to get a step on this guy. And remember, this shorty from Georgetown, he doesn't want to play defense. Okay, so this is an offensive midi that had to run over to guard transition. Okay, so Georgetown does not want him to be out there for the full defensive stand. So they want to get him off. All right, so um, that is his top choice is to get out. And so even though he's now a step behind the Hopkins player, he's still going to try and get out. But as you see here, he beats him by, maybe two strides, and that's just enough for his player, okay, to get a big enough lead so that he can run a little fast break situation here. All right. So you can see he's only a few steps in front of the defender that's coming in to play him. But because he has that step on him and Georgetown is slow to slide to him, he's able to rip a shot, score a goal. All right. So now we're going to look at similar situation. They don't cash in here, but it's another good example of uh, giving your offense a nice opportunity for so now we're going to look at another example here where Johns Hopkins, uh, in a similar way, they create a quick man up situation and they don't cash in here, but it's some nice subbing and gives themselves a pretty nice look. So Georgetown here, you're going to see they're going to turn over the ball and Hawkins is going to clear, get into their transition game. You can see they have two poles here crossing over into the offensive half. One pole dumps it off, and he's going to run off the field. And then you have another pole here sitting on the crease, and you can see he's being guarded by one of the offensive players from Georgetown who had to cross over. So here he's gonna come up. He's gonna, I think, make a little bit more of an attempt to set what you might call a hard pick, which is where he's gonna really try and make good contact with the Georgetown defender. So he's kind of shifting himself, really trying to set that good hard pick. Okay. And you can see as he does that, the Georgetown defender, um, he's playing this pick a little bit differently than in the last clip. The last clip, the defender was right on the picker. Now he's kind of he's backed off of him a little bit with some more space because he's really focused on being in a good position should the guy with the ball blow past his guy if this is an effective pick. So because he's backed off that far, all right, you're going to see the Paul's able to get a really good jump to the midfield line, which is going to create even more space than in the last clip for when the subs come over the midfield line. All right. So now you can see they're going to be playing 6v5 for a few moments there. And like I said, they don't cash in on it. Okay, but they gave themselves a good opportunity and they got the Georgetown defense kind of scrambling there. All right, and here's another look where Hopkins is able to create some good offense and get a goal off of their strong substitution. So Georgetown just turned the ball over. Hopkins picks it up out of bounds and they get the quick whistle and they start to play, bring it over the 50 and 34. Right? He was on defense, short stick D midi, and he brought his offensive guy with him. Runs right to the crease. All right. And he's getting ready to do another soft pick like we saw earlier. All right. And again, the Georgetown player defending him, he's backed off of him a little bit there. He kind of stops in his tracks because again, he's anticipating that pick and getting worried that he's going to have to help out with the ball carrier. And then at the last second, rather than setting the pick, he actually just runs off. All right, and then gives himself a really nice lead. So again, you can't even see the Georgetown player that's subbing in. He's not even in the frame yet. That's how good of a lead the Hawkins sub has. All right, so now we're playing 6-on-5 momentarily here. That obviously would have been a nice opportunity for a shot had he not slipped. Okay, but they're still going to cash in. Georgetown defense is scrambling, and we have another goal off of the sub game. All right, and so now we're going to look at another situation here in a game between Army and UMass. So UMass is clearing the ball, and once they get the ball into their offensive half, you're going to see the defensive midi number 13. He's going to run to the crease, and then he's going to set a little bit of a different pick than what we were seeing in the other clips. So rather than picking for one of the middies and running right off, he's going to go down and set a pick for one of the attackmen. And the reason why this is a good situation for him to do this, so he's being guarded by one of the Army offensive middies. And the attackman is obviously guarded by one of the Army long poles. So if he can set a good hard pick for his teammate, there's a chance that if they get the Army players to switch, then one of the attackmen is now going to be guarded by an Army offensive player, which is a really good matchup for them. So he's going to go down, he's going to try and set it. All right. And it doesn't quite work out. The Army pull, he fights through the pick. They don't get the switch, but he gave it a shot. And then he's able to sub off. And as he's doing that, you can see he's going to beat his guy to the midfield line. He's running as hard as he can, all right? Because he knows if he can get a step on him, again, it's going to create that momentary 6v5, which causes the defense to scramble a little bit, all right? And obviously, it's not something that they truly capitalized off of there, but that's why you wanna sub hard, you wanna sub smart, because you never know when you're gonna cause the defense to make a mistake.